that was something that struck me now was that, well, yeah, we have we have the situation of immigrants in Europe all over, and these people will say, well, I myself, I would say I ain't fighting for this. I'm sorry. I have a beautiful country back home. It's a little bit dangerous, but it's less dangerous than war. Well, most of the time. And at the same time, you have the immigrants perhaps thinking like that. I ain't fighting for this, and then you have the people from the country saying that's not what I'm willing to fight for.
Right.
That's not what I see my own country. I mean, look at all these people that is not me, that is not, and I'm not being insulting to anyone or any.
No.
It's just that's going to be the perception. I mean, you have something called empathy. And what brings a country together, a society together, is empathy to one another.
Correct.
And when you have several mini societies that are not exactly the same and are not exactly interacting with each other, not pointing to this or that. I mean, even the inside society, the French society are not interacting to immigrants. Immigrants are not interacting with each other, and then none of them are interacting with French society. You just have division. You don't have empathy.
Exactly.
You have antipathy.
Exactly, and that's exactly it. And this is, I think, a very big disease of many Western countries. You've got no more bond, you've got no more link. I mean, and we see it. I mean, nobody can make me believe that this is just a hazard, or else we've become extremely lazy. But if you look at French school books, you don't learn French history anymore. The kids in school books, most of them think that the world started in 1933, and that before, and that's the truth in France. So France is extremely rich history, as I said. I mean, very. I mean, anybody going through France is an open museum. You can't go through a village or a town without seeing something quite extraordinary, and those are the rest of history, and the French aren't even taught that. So how can you yourself assimilate to, I mean, it's a superior idea of what a nation is? Not saying that it's a superior nation, but a high idea of what your nation is, if you don't know the history, the level of French language. We still have practically 20% of people in France who are considered as illiterate, that can't speak the language. So if the French don't speak their language, if they don't know their history, if they don't find this common bond, social bond, which is not just history, just the fact that you want to help each other, you've got social security, but you're paying the social security because you're ready to help the poorest people of your country, and you know that you may benefit from that, and you've got some social bond that you would go to an association or to the public schools before there was military service, but there's no more places. The only places I think where people from different classes or horizons could meet would be in a church, because even in a football stadium, the upper classes will go to one part, the poor will go to another part, and the middle classes will be in the middle. And so there's practically nowhere where people would meet out of the population and share, a common love of history, of the language, of the culture, of theater. That doesn't exist. And if you don't have that strong basis, getting back to your question on the immigrants, what do you integrate these immigrants to? They arrive in this country, and I mean, my father was an immigrant, and they arrived, and he did everything he can to teach us the language, so that we know the language, we know the culture, and where I lived, a lot of immigrants coming from Poland, from ex-Yugoslavia, from Italy, and they've all got French names today. They're all proud of their origins, but they're more French than a lot of the French. At that time, the French Republic did that. I mean, they did it so strong that, I mean, a lot of the different cultures that we had in France, the Britons, the Normans, the Corsicans, they lost a bit of their own culture, that's for now. But there was some sort of common vision of what a Frenchman was and French culture. Now that that's being lost, the immigrants arriving, and even those who would want to, how can you be, I mean, it's ridiculous if the immigrant knows the French history or even language better than the French-speaking people. So we've been divided. Everything has been done so that we can't bind, we can't feel strong feel strong again. It's not in to be another country, but strong as a nation. That means there are crises in the story, in the history of every people. The way we fight against a pandemic, against a crisis, against poverty, against maybe not tsunamis, but earthquakes or different, I would say, natural catastrophes. The way people react together as a nation, this is something which is which we have to go through. We don't have that. We've been divided so much today that we're getting more and more just consumers. And you're allowed to get your French flag out if the French football team is on the pitch. And this is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. So we're arriving at a situation where we're speaking about more and more war. We're speaking about crisis. The economic situation in France is a catastrophe. We've got strong unemployment. The indebtedness of France is over 100. I think it's 112%. That means we're living off money that we're just we're not even printing it ourselves, which we did in the past. We're borrowing from the banks. So in a couple of years, the first budget will be for the French, taxpayers' money will be going to reimbursing the banks. It won't be to making better schools, better universities, better hospitals, better roads, rebuilding our cathedrals, our churches, the landscape, making society safe. It definitely won't be going into making a better justice department, police department, for France to be a safer place to be. It's going to go to the banks, and then we'll see where we can take care of that. How can that society survive? It's going to crumble. There's nothing binding the people. They're isolated, and we owe more money to the banks. We're going to be paying more to the banks than we are to hospitals or to schools, which are supposed to help us to help the society live together. And again, the situation we have now, as with World War II, as with World War I, is that our political elite are short terms. And maybe this is one of the I would say the weak spots of the French Republic, is that now, especially now, it wasn't so much the case at the beginning. We've got politicians who are elected for 4 or 5 years. So the first 2 years, they're happy, they get installed, they try to learn the tricks of the trade, understand how it works. Then they try a couple of new ideas, and then they stop because they want to get reelected. And I think also this is something we don't speak a lot about in the West. But if you look at what's going on in China, if you look what's going on in Russia, if you look at what's going on in the Emiratis, you've got people in Singapore. And I'm not all saying that these are the best regimes. Maybe I may not like to live in all these regimes. But what I must say is that the people in power have been building on a long-term process. They had a vision. This is where we are today. This is where we want to be tomorrow. We want to offer schooling. We want our countries to be safe. We want to export. In computer chips or wheat or whatever. And they built on that. And we didn't do this. We didn't. La Fontaine is a famous French. He wrote a lot of fables, and he's inspired by Greeks, Aesop. And we have one with the ant, and I don't know how you translate seagull, but the
ant and the crickets, no?
The ant and the cricket, yeah, that's it. And so we are in that situation where French used to be ants, and they were hardworking, hard-fighting nation, and now they've become the crickets. And this is the modern society. This is the Western society. This is the whole woke ideology, all the self-centric ideology. We talk a lot about solidarity, but we don't have any solidarity whatsoever. And so we're just so everybody now. The big thing is getting big screens in your room. Is staying inside, not going out, not meeting other people, not learning, and just being happy to be in your own, I would say, customized prison cell. Because at the end of the day, that's what it comes to. And we've become that. We've become that dystopian Orwellian people that we've been warned about not to become, because we have liberté, égalité, fraternité. But we all know that this is a very bad hangover for a lot of the French, and there are more and more. This is something, maybe a positive note. We're saying, wait, we've gone down a very bad path. We are losing ourselves as a nation, as a people, and we don't even know what gets us together. The hard part is, okay, what is going to get us together? Because in the past, religion was something, the kingdom was something. Your own, even before the kingdom, you had every smaller nobility. People would feel attached to their land and stuff like that. Then the Republic had to stand for something, but now what do people stand for? And they don't have that. So we've got an elite politicians, and they're all the same. Most of them, from the left and the right, they're very Atlanticists. They've been through American colleges. They've been through American think tanks. They're more American than the Americans, as a matter of fact. They think that the European Union is the solution to all the problems, that if you can't handle a problem today in France, it's because the European Union isn't handling the problem well, and we gave the European Union, I don't know how much, more than 50% of the legislation coming into the different European countries comes from the European Union. Nobody's responsible.
Can't do much.
You can't do
And
anything.
you can't do much because, the French people can, revolt against the French political system. But you cannot revolt against Brussels. That's war.
Yeah. They've developed the perfect system whereby they're untouchable. A bunch of people who've not been elected directly by any European people are making the rules of Western Europe. And these rules, if everyone was happy, imagine there's no insecurity. Imagine that schooling system is good, the hospitals are good. This would be a totalitarian system, but people would say, okay, it's totalitarian, but people want safety, they want security. So, okay, they're getting away with it. It's I would say it's bad for those who love liberty and freedom of speech. But okay, at least the people are getting, safer lives or maybe more intelligent lives, or I don't know. But we don't even have that. So we've got all these laws coming out of Brussels, making life tougher, making it extremely complicated to set up a business, making it extremely complicated when you're a dedicated doctor or even lawyer trying to get your job done because there's so much paperwork, there's so much red tape that you can't do things easily. And you always have to, at the end of the day, call some sort of a law firm or management firm because you don't understand the laws themselves. They're so big and so long and using words that nobody uses. It's sometimes even when you stop to think about it, this is an easy case, it's not so complicated to understand. And I think our descendants will be very harsh with us when, again, if there are any after the Third World War, which we hope to avoid, but they will be so harsh on us because I think we are clearly the stupidest generation that has ever walked the surface of the earth. By far.
It's true. We have everything. We have information in the palm of our hand at light speed. Trump got shot in the United States 5 minutes later, somewhere in Pennsylvania, in the middle of a farm show or exposition, whatever. 5 minutes later, I had this in my phone. 10 minutes later, I put up a live stream.
Yeah.
That's
incredible.
How fast we can go today. When Fitzel was shot, in 1 hour, I set up a live stream with 3 people. One from at the United States, Nina. One at Donbass, an Italian also historian that works as journalist in the Donbass, called Andrea Lucidi, and Neboja. In 1 hour. I wrote to them. I said, "Let's do it. Let's pop." They popped in. 1 hour was done.
Incredible.
So that's how fast they are. And at the same time, that's why I don't believe things are happening just because of stupidity. Macron is a banker. Whatever one may say about him, but he's a banker. He's been trained to be a banker. So at least he should know anything about economy, minimally anything about money. And I'm not even talking about real money. I'm talking about paper money. He should know anything about that.
Yeah.
And when you see that this crisis in Europe is ramping up for no reason, it shouldn't. The price of food, the price of electricity should not have grown 1 penny from 2 years ago or 4 years ago. Let's put 4 years ago. We had something in the middle as well. So it should not have grown. When I talk to Brazilians, to my friends about house loans, they go like, what? Pre 2020, pre-pandemic, it was like 0.3% a year what's it called? Of interest rate. 0.3% a year. You could buy a house, big house, and after 30 years, you were going to pay like 5,000 euros, not even a car. For interests. And now we are approaching what, 4%?
Yeah, and on 20 years, those 4%, that's huge. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. If you go for 20 years, for 15 years, you go from a car to almost another house.
Exactly.
Or a small apartment, at least.
No, it is crazy. We've arrived in the situation, and I agree. It's not just stupidity. There is design behind this. There are people definitely, and we know who they are, and who have this thought that this globalist society, that this one world society, driven by, I would say, these super given, God-given, I don't know, elites who know better than us because we're too stupid to understand, and who've developed the society, and it's not working. And rather than saying, okay, stop, sorry, made a mistake, they're continuing. And so there's this big wall in front of them all, and they're going faster. They're going faster, and everything that they have done, slowly, maturely, re-engineering the society, getting us used to just consuming, getting us used to not challenging the official narrative, getting us used to get less and less better, I would say, quality out of our schools, out of our justice system, out of our hospitals. All of a sudden, they're going very fast. So they want to change the society. They closed us up. They locked us down for something that we know today has nothing to do with the Black Pest or the Black Plague. And they made us believe, and we were so docile, and we went through that, and they were playing around with us, and they tested us, and it worked. And if you look on whether it's that subject, whether it's the political situation or the geopolitical situation with, as we mentioned a couple of minutes ago, this black and white vision with the good guys on one side, and we're supposed to be the good guys. Can you imagine, of all things, the good guys and the bad guys? You know, we're going out, and I shared this figure a couple of months ago, and it went viral on French internet, so that was quite cool. It doesn't happen all the time, but just a figure which came out of an American university, the University of Brown. It's called Watson Institute. You probably know this figure. It's the cost of war. And it's been calculated. These guys, these are Americans, most of them in this project, and they've calculated that American wars, mainly US, but also sometimes NATO wars, since 9/11, 2001, have been the cause directly or indirectly of over 4.5 million people across the world. And when I give that figure, people are just like eye-opening. So what are you talking about? 4 million? We haven't killed 4 million. We are at the origin. 900,000 people directly. Of those 900,000, 300,000 people are civilians, and the rest indirectly, because when you impose sanctions on Iraq and you can't get medication to the kids, they die. And you can't say, oops, that's a collateral damage. I mean, there's this famous sentence from Madeleine Albright when the CBS anchorwoman says, but our war has caused over 500,000 kids to die in Iraq. Was it worth it? And Madeleine Albright says, yes, it was. This is creepy. This is really scary. This is the kind of people who are building this one world, this globalist product. And when you listen to them and when you read them carefully, it's obvious that they're bad. They don't have good intentions for us. They don't see us as normal people. They don't see whatever they're doing they are the Machiavellians there, and they are responsible for the death of millions of people. So this is something. This is frightening. This is the reality, and so we're still allowed, you and I, to discuss this. People will say, yeah, but you can discuss this, yeah. But they won't give us access to mainstream media. The only thing which is positive is that this.
If we don't say some keywords here.
Yeah, exactly. We've got to be careful.